Word button. At 3D Learner, we've been helping kids succeed by third grade or sooner for 27 years. We're moving to a different phase right now. We realize that with 70% of fourth graders not reading on grade level, and probably 80% of the kids that learn differently, there are literally millions of parents out there with a smart kid who's struggling. And our goal here is to provide a guide for you that'll help your child succeed and give you that satisfaction in knowing that you made the difference. There are three premises in the first part of this. One, we know that most smart, struggling kids continue to struggle through third, fourth, fifth year and beyond, and that the gap often widens. We also know these kids that learn differently and who often have attention issues, executive function issues, they may have dyslexia, and they may have anxiety issues, have the potential to be far more successful if they're taught to their strengths, their challenges are identified, and their parents choose to make the difference. The key here is to give you the insights that help you be the pivotal parent who makes the difference.
So as a parent, it's one of the most important things for you to be able to do is to recognize your child's gifts and abilities as well as their challenges, and know that working through their gifts to be able to work at those challenges is by far the best way to be able to do that. There are a number of people and programs that have said, oh no, you just have to be able to zero in on what the children cannot do. Well, for our really smart, bright, right brain, visual, experiential, kinesthetic learners, or 3D learners as we call them, quite honestly, the best way to be able to help them succeed, and I mean really succeed, is to be able to engage them through their gifts and their abilities. They can see right through so many different things, and if it looks like it's something that they have a difficult time with, you're going to find they're going to have an emotional shutdown almost immediately. But it's important to understand what those challenges may be. Yes, we all know our kids can be really bright, and it's just a really key piece. There's a really big difference when we say they are smart or gifted, but versus smart and gifted and. When we add that and, it makes a big difference about how we as parents and certainly as educators and other professionals working with these kids respond to them, and in turn, how the kids respond back. So it's important to look at things like visual processing, auditory processing, actually sensory processing, which means that kids get really itchy or they get really bothered by light or bothered by sound. And there are some things that they are bothered by that we don't even recognize that that's an issue. Flickering lights, sound that you may not even be totally aware of, and telling kids to negate that or ignore it makes it even more difficult for them to be able to, I'm going to say focus, but to be able to concentrate on what it is you want them to be able to do. But if they have attention issues, okay, that's what we have to be able to identify and be able to support those issues along with their abilities and work with all of the challenges, and as well as being able to identify. And sometimes I'm going to tell you what would happen if we changed those challenges to various abilities. Maybe they can have attention to certain things that you didn't even recognize was a positive piece. It's important to be able to make sure that as a parent, you're that first line of, wow, that's a really good job that you focused on that, or that you heard that train in the distance. I didn't even know that would happen. And use that to be able to then identify what kinds of things need to be able to work on.
And as we look at assessments, you also want to look at what's your child's present level of performance with respect to certain things like reading fluency, which is how efficiently and effectively they read, and reading comprehension. Schools, especially in the early grades, will often focus on fluency, decoding, phonemic awareness, and whether or not a child has dyslexia. But it's really important to know how well they comprehend, and the two do not always correlate.
All right. I was just talking to another reading specialist who was talking about the fact that there was a child who was a second grader who was a really good decoder. I have worked with many children that's been the issue. They're really in decoding is that ability to break up and sound out words and individual sounds. For our right brain 3D learners, sometimes just putting that fluency sound piece together doesn't always mean that they understand the word. So it's important, yes, using the science of reading, of which 3D Learner has a very strong part, using the UFly reading program to be able to help with the decoding issues. But as Mark just said, the most important piece, and especially is that hook, is for kids to truly understand. And that is using their visual spatial visualization abilities and enhancing those visualization abilities, which sometimes these kids don't even recognize that they have, and therefore they shut it down when they have to go to decode. So it's important that you understand where the child is at and what is truly needed. Sometimes we have to do the comprehension piece first, and then they recognize the pattern for decoding. And sometimes we have to do it the other way around. And sometimes we have to do a little bit of both to be able to make sure that we get it right for that particular child. Is there a science teaching of reading? Sure, of course there is. But, and, our children really all learn differently, and we need to approach how our kids learn. And we need to approach how we teach our kids the way they learn best. It is an individual approach, and it's vital that parents be the ones that are the front line that see that first, and find an educator, coach, and advocate that can work together as a team to be able to help our kids succeed.
When we get to goal setting, a lot of what we'll talk about later is understanding what you're trying to improve. But before you get there, it's really important to have a couple of key goals. One, to find out if your child learns differently. And we have a free assessment you can access that looks at, is your child a right brain visual or kinesthetic learner? It's 15 questions. We recommend you do this with your child because their answers may surprise you. Another thing is to talk to people who offer programs and coaching that are focused on helping a child who learns differently. We've had parents, we had a third grader, mom called and she said, after 7 or 8 minutes, she said, in less than 10 minutes, it's clear to me that you understand my child better than people who've known him for 3 years. He, by the way, went on to improve his reading comprehension 3 grade levels in the next year. So it's really important to have conversations with people. And we do offer a free 30-minute conversation on what's happening with your child, what are your frustrations, what are your dreams, and what can you do right away to make it better and potentially long-term to make it much better.
Understand there is no magic bullet, but, and I'm going to get this right yet, right? And see, it's difficult for me as a professional. It's really vital as a parent that we use that and. It is important that we know the whole child. When Mark is talking about goal setting, let's remember these kids are big picture learners. They need to be able to have the big idea. Yes, of course, they want to be able to do it right, be successful right away. And we build on successes because those successes build successes in what we call aha moments. When they recognize a pattern and they learn, and they are so excited to learn and so excited to be successful, they want to be able to reach those goals. So for parents, it's understanding the really big goal. For the kids, it's understanding what they can reach and what they can do to be able to build on that, to be able to be successful. We're here to be able to help you answer questions, explore where your child is at, and what kinds of potentials is possible.
You can reach us at 561-361-7495 or hit the link below to schedule a conversation on how your child can get it right by third grade or sooner. And one last point I want to say is people have argued whether it's right to go to public school, private school, homeschool a kid. We'll be honest. The kind of goals that you can get goals and achievements you can get for your child in terms of reading fluency, reading comprehension, self-esteem, resilience, reduced anxiety, that great feeling of making a difference as a parent, you're probably going to find it most likely in a private service that knows how to help your child. You want to find that right match for yourself. Again, if you want to chat, give us a call at 561-361-7495 or hit the link below to engage in a conversation on how you can make the difference.
Thank you.